everyone. I'm going to do a quick tutorial on how to do OAuth with Unity and specifically for Android. I got a lot of help actually from this article or blog post from Ofer Reichman, hopefully I didn't butcher his name, about doing it serverlessly with Instagram. I'm going to do it with Fitbit instead, but it's kind of the same deal. There was a couple of things that I ran into that were a bit different, so I'm gonna just kind of run over it as I go. I'll be putting a link to this blog post as well as my blog post that's gonna go up with this video. That way, both kind of bases are covered, and he gets credit where credit's due. So I'm gonna be kind of assuming a few things already. I'm gonna be assuming that you have a Fitbit app started with Fitbit itself, so I'm not going to run through making an app through their service. I'm not going to go through what OAuth exactly is, because I'm assuming that if you're trying to do OAuth, you kind of already have a handle on what's going on. I will, however, run through how I do it without the use of either a Webview or a server. And one of the things that made me have to do this was actually a fact that Fitbit recently, or maybe they had it all the time, I never noticed, they made it so we can't use, as developers, we can't use web views for mobile applications anymore. So this meant that I had to go and get rid of the web view I was using to do the authentication on my game and actually do it without it, meaning I have to do it with like the Chrome or Safari or whatever's on your phone. So we'll kind of get into it. What I'm going to do first is we're basically going to run through it the way that Ofer actually does it as well. So you're going to go to like Eclipse or Android Studio. I use Eclipse because it's easier for me at least. I don't know how exactly to build the jar. I don't do a lot of Java programming, so a lot of this is kind of new to me. So I just grab Eclipse, and because I know it's easier to get the jar file out of it. You're going to do Android application project. You can call this pretty much whatever you want. So we'll go OAuth tutorial, but you don't want the package name to be that. What you want is in your app, in your player settings and other settings here in the side in the inspector, you want to go to identification and get the bundle identifier. So you're going to go grab that and then come back to Eclipse, throw it in the package name. You can change your minimum SDKs and all that kind of stuff if you've got different things. I'm aiming for my lowest one for Gingerbread. Just, it doesn't really make much of a difference to me. I don't think I need anything much lower than that. I'm not going to do a custom launcher icon. You have to mark it as a library. This is the very important thing. And we're going to create an activity, just a blank activity. And you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to leave it called main activity. So once that loads up, clear that. You don't really need the main activity XML. And you can kind of get rid of some stuff here. So what you need to do is go to, where was it? Project properties and Java build path and can't remember what it was. I'll have to look at his blog post. Can't remember if it was the external or what. Yeah, you need to get the classes, and it is the external jars. That's what it was. I thought it was that one. So I've already found it previously. So as you can see, wherever your Unity is installed, you're going to go to Editor, Data, Playback Engines, Android Player, Variations, Mono Release Classes. You can find it in a couple different places after Android Player. What I actually did to find it was I just went and put classes.jar. And as you can see, it comes up with a couple different ones. I think any of them really will do the trick, but I'm just going to continue using the one that I previously used. So we're going to go Unity, what was it? Unity Player, activity, yeah. Just import that. And just for cleanliness, I'm going to remove this because I'm not using that anyway. So you can get rid of these two overrides because you don't need them. I'm actually going to grab something from the one that I did because it required me to find it online. So I'll just grab this. So for your onCreate method, I found that I had to actually you have to pretty much start the Unity player activity itself, and that's actually what you're overriding here. So besides the super on create, it didn't really work all that it didn't work that well for me. So I had to search around on the internet for a long time to figure this out, and finally somebody had the same question as me, and I was getting a crash without this. So when the browser sends you back from getting your OAuth token, it would just crash, and then maybe restart and try to log back in and blah 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 blah. So this is the only way I found that it won't crash. So you're basically just you're getting the intent for your player activity, your Unity player activity, and if it's already null, then we're going to start it. So it's just starting it up basically. So the next part is we need to override the protected void. I don't know if there's actually like autocomplete in Eclipse or not. Makes me feel slow. And it's on new intent. Care if there's a thing for that. Oh, it's just intent. Again, I don't really know all of the stuff for this. In part of the help with trial error and Ofer's blog post is how I came up with this class. There's small differences between my class and his class because I just strip like my URI in my actual game instead of doing it here. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna do the super for the on new intent. That way everything gets called as it should. But you're also gonna call like for us, I called it handle access token. I think that's what he called it as well. And just for the sake of it, yeah. So it's telling me that I don't have one. I wonder if I can just, yeah, sweet. Okay, so what you're doing here is you're wanting to grab the URI from Chrome or, well, yeah, I guess Chrome since it's going to be on Android, and you're going to want to take out the URL that it gives you. So I feel bad having to switch back and forth between the code I already have and the code that I'm writing. So anyways, I'm just going to copy paste it, and then I'll try to explain what's going on. So the intent gets the new URI when it's coming back, or it gets data pushed into it. With that URI, you can go and check to see if it has your custom scheme in it. And the custom scheme is something you're going to set up in Fitbit or whatever else app you're going to do. For instance, like he did his in Instagram, I'm doing mine in Fitbit. In Fitbit, you can actually set up several different custom schemes. That way it'll all work. Like I have one for my PC testing and I have one for my Android testing. What he does in his is he actually goes and tries to strip out stuff in this one. I found that when I did that, I was getting quite wrong, like a quite wrong string sent to my Unity project. So I figured I've got my URI and stuff inside my game project and classes anyway. So what I'll do is I'll just strip it out there instead, because technically That's kind of where I should handle it anyway. So what we're gonna do is you put this in for logging. I can't see logging because my Nexus 4 doesn't like to party with Unity, unfortunately. It's very, very frustrating when you have to debug Android stuff and you can't actually debug it. Anyway, so you're doing a log to logcat, and then you're going to send through Unity Player and the Unity send message. You're going to send it to a custom game object in your scene. So I've called mine custom Android plugin because just for the possibility that later on I'll make more methods, I can just shove them into the one thing instead. So we're going to send it to that game object, which is going to have a script that has a method called passReturnCode, and we're going to send the URI as a string. So when you've done that, you hit Control S and it will save out a jar file. I'm not sure if I can just navigate to it from here or not. I can. That's fine. Oh, no, I can't. Okay. Yeah, okay. I can't do that, which is unfortunate. So anyways, you're going to go and navigate to wherever your Android workspace is, wherever you saved at your actual project. You're going to go into it and you're going to go to the bin and you're going to grab this jar file here. What you're going to do then is go to your Android project and you're going to go into your project, assets, and if you don't have one, you're going to make a folder called plugins, and inside that you're going to make one called Android. So this is the part where you can do two things. You can either just copy paste that jar file into your main plugins Android folder, or if you're somebody that likes to keep things a little bit cleaner, as clean as things can be in Unity with all the extra meta files and stuff, you can make another folder inside, and you're going to make one more inside that called libs. Go inside that, paste your jar file. Out here in your main folder, outside the libs folder, you're going to make an XML file, or you can just kind of copy paste the Android manifest from there. You'll also need to make another one. I think I should be able to just copy it, and it was called project.properties. Not sure if I can actually just make a properties file or not. Of course I can. Awesome. So make a project.properties and a Android manifest without the copy. So inside your project.properties, you don't actually need all this. The only thing you need inside the project.properties is these two lines here. So we will just get rid of that. So the target might be a bit different. Depends on what Android platform or SDK you're targeting. But you need to make sure that the Android.library is true. Without this, Unity will not try to merge or it won't even try to find your jar file. It'll just give up and say, nope, there's nothing here. So we're going to go back to the OAuth tutorial, and in the manifest, this is one of the parts where it kind of screwed me up a bit, because a lot of the tutorials you'll find about making the Android manifest all say to just chuck it inside the base folder, and you can do that as well. Yeah, this should be all correct. So anyway, so you inside you're going to have the data Android scheme, set it up with whatever custom scheme you have. This is the part that's before the ://. So without that, everything else should be pretty good. As I was saying before, a lot of them will tell you to chuck it right in here, but if you've already got an Android manifest, it kind of creates a problem. So what I ended up doing is, because you have all these other things, if you've got like Facebook, SDK, and some other stuff, you'll have a lot of other things inside here. What I did is I actually just deleted it, because Unity will go and remerge them, and it'll make it all nice and fancy. I actually am not 100% sure if you need the Android manifest inside the, like inside your OAuth tutorial folder or not. I put the same thing in there pretty much as this anyway, just for the sake of it, because it makes it more complete and make sure nothing can go really wrong. But you want to make sure that you have your activity here as well. So pretty much the same thing that you post in this one, you're going to throw inside this one, inside your main plugin Android folder. So if you save that, you're pretty much done with most of the Android stuff. So we're going to go back to Unity. As I said before, you need to make a custom object. So you can call it whatever you called it inside Eclipse. In our case here, we called it custom Android plugin. So I've already made one. I'm not going to remake it just for the sake of it. You're going to make a script. You can call it whatever you want as far as I'm aware. And of course it's going to make me reopen. Awesome. So while we wait, I think you can call it whatever you want. I'm pretty sure it's just going to try to reflect and figure out what single script you have that has whatever method it's going to try to call. I did try sticking the script on another object that had several scripts, and it didn't work. So I would stick with doing one object, for example, your Android, and probably one for your iOS, and one for your Windows if you have to. I'm not 100% sure on iOS and Windows because I haven't done it. So now the Visual Studio is back up. This part's going to be a little bit more specific to your game. For me, I've got a manager that I just pass and hold all of my menus and everything else in. So like handles changing through all of my game, like it handles changing screens and all that kind of stuff. So I found also that I had to do this. So in your start, you're going to do gameObject.name and call it whatever. Actually, no, never mind. That doesn't actually apply because that no longer is the name of my object and it still works. So disregard that. So I have a manager class that I'm going to pass my return code to my Fitbit API, which hopefully for anybody also doing Unity and Fitbit API or Fitbit stuff, I will hopefully have this refactored and cleaned up soon. And I'll release it so everybody else doesn't have to go and rewrite everything. I just got to remove a bunch of extra garbage from like the Webview and all the other crap. So I'm going to pass it to my return code from Android. I had to make a separate method because I've got one for PC and one for Android. The Android one, I'm going to do the custom stripping out of all this stuff before my custom scheme, which I've already set up a method up here that holds my scheme. The thing that you probably notice here is that I add +6. This accounts for this part that Fitbit actually adds to your custom scheme on the way back when you have a valid return code. So it'll actually look something like, oh, wrong button. There we go. So when Fitbit gives you back a return code, it's actually going to end up looking like this, and then a bunch of random crap. So what you're going to want to do is get rid of all the stuff before your return code, and then, yeah, the 6-bit after, or the 6 characters after, because it's just going to make it easier to work with. And then, yeah, you're just going to use the return code. I'll quickly go over how I do my OAuth part, like my OAuth calls and stuff inside Unity, because it is a bit of a pain. The biggest problem is that there's not a lot of documentation on how to do it correctly. I did make a blog post about this already. I think it'll be... forgot the blogspot part. So it should be covered already in this blog post, which is the Fitbit, OAuth2, Unity, and a month of cursing. I'll put a link to it in the video description as well. So this is basically all the stuff you need for it. I'll just quickly show it for the different parts inside mine as well. So, for example, like when you're doing the return code, you're going to want to set up your client ID and consumer secret. Make sure that this is actually a colon. I had probably 2 or 3 days when I was first trying to get all this to work that I didn't notice that was actually, I had a semicolon in there. And that causes everything to break, and it's the smallest detail to notice and debug. I actually had a friend that noticed it after we were staring at it for, 2 or 3 days. It was quite ridiculous. So what you're going to do is fill in your client ID, grant type, authorization code, redirect URI. You're going to do your callback URL, and you're going to escape it. So, or you're going to unescape it, I mean. That's also something that Fitbit didn't, I don't know if they changed it now, but they didn't have it in their documentation earlier, that part didn't have to be escaped. Previously, like in some of the other stuff, you need to escape your callback URL to make it so it's web ready. But you don't need to do it when you're sending it in your WW form part. So you're going to put in your code and the return code that we just got and pretty much send it all off. I start mine with a coroutine. I'm trying to figure out the best way before I release the Fitbit API for Unity. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it, because right now I've got a dirty hack where I've got a while loop in there, because I had problems. For example, like I have one method that uses it and then goes on to all the other stuff. While the coroutine's going, it's actually going to try to come back right after that and parse the token and then go and get all the data, etc. So I'm still trying to find a good way of handling all that and make it nice and useful for everybody. But yeah, that's for something for later. Pretty much all of the getting is all the same. The only difference is that you're changing the URL that you're sending in with your headers. So yeah, that's about it. When you have all of that kind of stuff put together, like when you've got all your OAuth stuff all figured out and whatnot, along with that new jar file, what we can do is now do a build, and you build your Android, and if you're lucky, what you'll end up with is a working Android app with OAuth2. So basically what it should be doing is going to your browser. Your user should detect whether they want to allow you to have access to their Fitbit stuff. If yes, then it'll send back your Android plugin, will capture it, send it to Unity, and Unity will handle it however you want to handle it. That's the basics of it. I'm hoping that I made this clear enough. If not, I definitely recommend checking out the blog post by Ofer again. He's pretty helpful, and now that I've kind of figured out how to do some of the stuff, hopefully either of us will be able to get stuff figured out. Yeah, if anybody's got questions, comments, by all means, feel free to leave them. I'll try to help you as much as I can. By no means am I an Android guru. I'm just messing around in Unity and trying to make stuff work. So, yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and talk to you guys later.